That was President Trump responding to Saudi Arabia's statement late Friday about the fate of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. The kingdom now acknowledging his death, but claiming it was the accidental result of a fistfight, contradicting the government's initial claim that the journalist who was critical of the Saudi regime had left the consulate alive. 18 suspects are said to have been arrested in the case. John Hanna is senior counselor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He served as Vice President Dick Cheney's national security advisor in the Bush administration. Welcome, John. Good to see you.
Thank you, Paul.
So you've heard the story. The Saudis now say it the result of a fistfight and accident. How credible is that?
Well, that part of the story is still incredible, Paul. Nobody knows for sure what happened inside of that consulate. Yet we've had a stream of leaks from the Turkish press over the last couple of weeks that have been reported in virtually every American major outlet, in which they say that this was a kill team sent to Saudi Arabia with the intent to murder Khashoggi, not to somehow lure him back to the kingdom. So that part of the story still just doesn't pass the laugh test.
Do you think that American intelligence would have its own information about what happened here?
I think they will have information. Whether they've got the kinds of goods of surveillance from inside the consulate itself at the time that Khashoggi died, that's unclear to me. We may have to rely a lot on Turkish intelligence for that specific evidence.
Of course, the Turks have their own incentives here. They're something of a rival of Saudi Arabia for influence in the Middle East. So it's hard to know who to trust here, isn't it?
I think that's exactly right. There are so many other agendas going on here. The Turks and their allies in the region, the Qataris, both despise the Saudis. They would be eager to humiliate Mohammed bin Salman, to take Saudi Arabia down a peg. So they've got a lot of incentives here to keep this drip, drip, drip going against Saudi Arabia, and to keep the pressure on the United States to keep pushing the Saudis as well.
Yeah, the people who have been arrested and 5 officials fired, so many of these are in the inner circle of the Crown Prince, MBS as he's known, and yet there's no link to him. But is it plausible to you that the Saudis don't admit any link to him, but is it plausible to you that they would have acted without MBS's approval, at least tacit or explicit?
No, I think as an analytical matter, for anybody who's followed the Saudis and the House of Saud closely, and particularly Mohammed bin Salman, who's known as a control freak, it's hard to imagine something as significant as this happening with the potential international ramifications it's clearly had, not happening without some kind of express order from Mohammed bin Salman.
Okay, so knowing that, then the president calling this a good first step, President Trump, what do you think of that response, and what should we do?
Well, I think just as again, as an analytical matter, this is a good first step. I mean, for 2.5 weeks, the Saudis have said that this man left that consulate of his own free will. They've now finally admitted he has died in that consulate at the hands of Saudi officials and on the orders of at least people as powerful and as high a level in the Saudi establishment as you can get without implicating one of the royals or Mohammed bin Salman himself. So I think that is important progress for the Saudis. Yet the United States shouldn't be the people vouching for the credibility of this investigation. We still need answers. We need a body. We need to know how Khashoggi was killed in that embassy.
All right, when that happens at some point here in the next few days or weeks, then what can the United States do on a policy front to be consistent with our interests, which is our alliance with Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, but also our values, which means we don't sanction murder of journalists?
Yeah, we first of all got to obviously speak the truth here, which was that this was a brazen, unacceptable breach of international norms against a person under the protection of the United States, living in the United States, working for one of the major American media outlets, the Washington Post. So we've got to be very clear in our rhetoric, very clear that this can never, ever happen again, or it will, in fact, jeopardize the U.S.-Saudi strategic partnership. And there are sanctions that we need need to put into place, these global Magnitsky Act sanctions that are very targeted against specific Saudi perpetrators of this action. And then I think we've got to consider real pressure on the Saudis finally. Don't indulge Mohammed bin Salman as much as we have over the last year. He's now creating more problems for us than he solves, the problem in Yemen in particular.
Right.
I think there needs to be a much stronger U.S. hand to force some kind of political settlement here and get the Saudis to the table.
But if you sanction using the Magnitsky sanctions, which are aimed at individuals, if you sanction the people all at the lower rungs here, and below MBS, and you don't sanction him, I mean, are you going to look like you've actually let him off the hook?
Well, I think that's always the danger, and that's the delicate line the United States walks. We got to stand up for our values. On the other hand, we have got important business to get done in the international community. You do that with the leaders that are in place in these countries. So long as MBS is there, we've got to be able to do business with him in the interests and in the security of the United States of America. We've seen this in Russia. We continue to have summits with Vladimir Putin, despite the fact he's killing dissidents in England. And we do it with people like Kim Jong-un, where we've got to negotiate an end to their nuclear program, despite the fact that just over a year ago, Kim Jong-un was responsible for the detention, the torture, and eventually the murder of an American citizen, Otto Warmbier.
All right, so it's a very delicate walk. Thank you, John Hanna. Appreciate coming in.
Sure, Paul. Thank you.